welcome back to another edition of Inside the Wolves here on Inside the Zone with Mateo. So glad you're choosing to spend your next few minutes here, hopefully entertained by me talking about my favorite basketball team. Yes, the Minnesota Timberwolves are my favorite basketball team. I don't know what I'm doing here for these intros anymore. I really don't know, but all I know is that you have clicked on this episode, and thank you for doing so. Welcome, though. Yes, welcome to Inside the Wolves here on Inside the Zone with Mateo. It's our basketball podcast on this sports channel, sports podcast channel. Cover all the Minnesota sports, but also all sports, all things related to sports. And we're going to have a lot of content because the NHL and NBA playoffs are getting underway. They're getting underway in about a week or so. Play-in tournament starts next week for the NBA. NHL playoffs and NBA playoffs start the 18th of April. So, guys, there's going to be a lot of content. So, if you want good content, because, I think I make pretty dang good content, hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. On our road to 200 subscribers. We just hit over 150 subscribers here on YouTube. You can also follow me on Spotify, where you can find all these same episodes there. Also, go ahead and check out my website for articles. I'm chasing the dream of being a sports journalist, sports beat writer. Right now, still in high school, making my way to college in the next couple of years. But let me stop yapping about myself, and let's go to Mateo's show batting order presented by To Be Determined. If you'd like to sponsor this segment, which is basically our show roadmap, if you will, which we use across the channel on all of these different podcasts, let me know. Send me an email, send me a DM on Twitter, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. But there's one thing on the batting order today, and that is the Wolves have clinched. So, without further ado, the Wolves have clinched, and let's get on with the show. Boom! Here's what y'all need to know. The Wolves, yes, they will be in the postseason because, yes, after that, I don't know, did they? Yeah, they technically did win a couple days ago, but some way, somehow, the Minnesota Timberwolves have avoided the play-in tournament, which we'll get into in a second, but they've also just clinched a playoff spot. This is their post on X. This was, April 8th, so yesterday. Oh, wait, no, that's me reposting that was yesterday. But, yeah, so really nice, really good to finally get that clinched X. On the standings here. Let me pull that up on the ESPN standings. It's good. It's been empty, right? We've been the only team. It's been us in Phoenix fighting for the 6th or 7th spot. No joke intended on that stupid slang 6-7 thing, but let's forget about that. My goodness. What am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing, but anyway, we've clinched. That X looking real good for your Minnesota Timberwolves. Unfortunately, 100%, they're going to be the 6th seed, which is the unfortunate part, which we will get to in a second. Let's go back over here, though. Yes, the Wolves will be in the playoffs. Sorry if it does the weird white thing, but hey, it didn't do it today, which is cool. And yeah, the Wolves will be in the playoffs. That's the first thing you need to know. The second thing I already touched on already. They're also going to be avoiding the play-in tournament, which is super good. It's super good. You don't have to, play an additional game or two to try to make the playoffs. And obviously, in the Western Conference, it's like, basically, yeah, the play-in's cool. You're going to get to make 2 of the 4 teams in each conference are going to make the playoffs, right? In the play-in tournament. But in the Western Conference, my gosh, if you win, if you get out of the play-in tournament, which is, a 1-game winner-take-all match, basically, the winners have to play San Antonio round 1 and the OKC Thunder round 1. Which is like, yeah, you're in the playoffs, but, anything's possible in the playoffs, but it's just like, I'm sorry, for whoever gets out, Phoenix, Golden State, the Clippers, or the Trailblazers, whatever 2 teams get out in the West, hypothetically, I'm thinking the Suns and the Trailblazers at the moment, but, like, you have the Suns playing the Spurs round 1, and then the Trailblazers playing the Thunder. The Thunder could rest half of their players and still win that series, and it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. And the Minnesota Timberwolves get to avoid that, and just get to play another team. So, who exactly are they going to play? Well, that's kind of what we're going to focus on here. And well, yeah, it's the Nuggets. It's the Denver Nuggets, Denver, Jokic, Murray, and company. The Minnesota Timberwolves most likely will be playing the Nuggets, but let's talk a little bit about the road to who they're going to play, because it's going to get interesting, because technically, mathematically, the Rockets, the Lakers, the Nuggets, they are all coming into play tonight. Tonight is going to be April 9th. So I believe the Rockets play tonight. Yes, they do. They play the 76ers tonight. They actually play the Timberwolves tomorrow night. The Lakers play the Warriors today, and the Suns tomorrow night. And then the Nuggets actually played last night. They beat the Grizzlies, so they only have 2 games left, just like the Minnesota Timberwolves do as well. But again, the Timberwolves, they rested all their players last night, lost. Basically, they just said, we don't want to get anybody hurt. We got to rest these guys. They lost. I'm expecting them to lose out the rest of the season because, I mean, they're locked in at the 6th spot. They're not really, I mean, they just got to keep everyone healthy at this point, because they are going to have to play a top dog, whether it is the Denver Nuggets, whether it is the Houston Rockets, whether it is some way, somehow the LA Lakers. You're going to be playing somebody good. I mean, the Lakers' season's almost over with the Doncic and AR injuries, but still, they're still a good team, and you want to be rested, because it's gonna be a really hard playoff run. We're going to talk about that in a second, but let's first talk about who's going to get the 3rd seed. Denver right now, as you can see here, has 48% chance. In my opinion, they should have like a 75% chance, but they do all of these calculations. They know way more. Technically, the Lakers do have the tiebreaker with the Nuggets, so that is probably what is making it a little interesting here. However, for the Lakers, let's just look at the Lakers' remaining schedule. I do think this is where it could be a little interesting, because for me, even if the Rockets win out, right? Sure, the Rockets could win out. They're going to play probably the 76ers tonight, right? They play the 76ers tonight. They're probably going to win that game just because they need it more than the 76ers do in a sense. So that would be 51 wins for the Rockets. They probably beat the Timberwolves, who are probably going to rest more stars tomorrow. So that's 52 wins. That ties the Nuggets. Now, it comes into play where the Houston Rockets, say they do beat, they do go 3-0, right? That would be cool. That would get them 53 wins. Now, the Nuggets, though, they have 52 wins. All they have to do, and they also have the tiebreaker over the Rockets, all they have to do is win one out of their 2 games. And by the way, Denver, the 2 games they play, sure, it's the Nuggets playing the Thunder and the Spurs, right? Those are 2 really good teams. But both of those teams have a spot clinched already. The OKC Thunder, with their win, I believe, last night, it was like they won by like 50 points. They clinched the best record in the NBA, clinched the best record in the Western Conference. They're going to be the 1 seed. And with that, the San Antonio Spurs clinched the 2nd spot. So now, in a sense, I think Wemby has to play one more game if he's eligible for some awards. You could maybe see him play one of these games. But, like, I doubt you're going to see a lot of these stars for a long period of time, if at all. And so the Nuggets have a really legitimate shot. All they have to do is win one game. And so even here, this game, which would have probably drawn in so many tickets, probably people bought so many tickets to it at the beginning of the season. It could have been for the number 1 seed if that would have aligned. But yes, say Jokic wins, right? You're going to get to see Jokic for sure tomorrow. You're probably not going to see a lot of heavy stars. Maybe you see SGA for a little bit, but not even a full game. And if the Nuggets win, right, then again, similar to this game, Sunday night, like last game of the season, both of those stars, all of these stars are not going to play because, Denver could have the 3rd seed clinch already, and it won't even matter if Houston if Houston wins out. However, things could change if the Lakers start to pull off some wins, because that could be interesting. If the Lakers were to win out, which, by the way, no Luka, no AR for the remainder of the regular season. The Lakers currently, are playing a very injured Warriors team tonight. They're playing a Suns team who has clinched the 7th seed. They're most likely, they have nothing else to play for, most likely going to be resting their stars, and then the Jazz are a mess. Hypothetically, the Lakers could win out as well, leading them to 53 wins, in which that would lead the Nuggets having to win both games. But even then, you go back. The Nuggets are playing the OKC Thunder. The Thunder are probably going to be resting a lot of their stars. Which, hey, they still have a full group of an NBA team basically off their bench because they're so deep. So maybe they could give you a run for their money, but I still doubt it. And then San Antonio, even if it comes to that, if Nuggets have to win against San Antonio, it's not necessarily that hard because I would see probably a lot of their starters being rested as well, just so they get an entire week off of health, of rest, make sure everybody's ready for the postseason because both of those teams, the Thunder, the Spurs, they're getting ready for a lengthy playoff run unless something crazy happens. So even if the Rockets win out, if the Rockets win out, they go 3-0 in their last 3 games, meaning they would end the season on like a crazy win streak. They haven't lost since the Minnesota Timberwolves beat them in overtime, in that crazy overtime at the end of March. Even if the Lakers somehow, without AR and without Luka Doncic, win out, even if it's maybe not the hardest schedule, all Denver has to do is win 2 games. But when you're talking about that, like, it's 2 games where you said, okay, on paper, if everyone plays, it's hard. But it's the Thunder and the Spurs who are probably going to be resting people. So it's like, this is why I think this percentage should be way higher. I think it shouldn't be 48%. I think it should be closer to 60, maybe 70%. And that's why we're going to talk a little bit more about Minnesota versus Denver, because that just seems like what it's going to happen, which this, by the way, is going to lead to a LeBron James, Kevin Durant first round matchup in the playoff, which, hey, that is box office as well. We'll talk about the NBA playoffs on another episode, probably closer to next week. Probably next Thursday, we'll talk about the NBA playoffs. The full bracket, give you my full predictions. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you don't want to miss that. So now, with that all being said, most likely it's going to be Nuggets round 1. What are my initial thoughts to this? And when I, think about the Denver Nuggets and the Minnesota Timberwolves, we have had quite a few playoff series with them in the last couple years, right? We played them in the second round. We've played them in the first round. We've played them the last, quite a few couple years, right? This season has been very interesting against the Denver Nuggets. Denver won 3 out of the 4 meetings, including that amazing overtime game on Christmas Day. That was insane. That was so insane. 2 games before that were more blowout wins, so you can have that. But then the Minnesota Timberwolves played a heck of a game March the 1st, beating the Nuggets actually in Denver 117-108. Why I mention that is because Minnesota is not going to have home court advantage at all unless the Suns, the Clippers, or any of the playing teams make the Western Conference Finals. That is the only reason, the only shot the Timberwolves would have home court advantage. That's just not going to happen. You're going to have to go to Denver in a Game 7. You're going to have to go to San Antonio. You're going to have to go to OKC. You're going to have to go to Houston in a Game 7. So the Timberwolves, even by being the worst team already, they have, record-wise, seeding-wise, they're the worst seed of the playoff teams. That's hard enough, but they're not going to have home court at all. They're going to have to play in the other team's home city and arena for any Game 7s or Game 5s, which is going to be very interesting. But when I mention this, that they were able to go out in Denver and beat them. And by the way, the overtime game at Denver, that was in Denver as well. The two games you got blown out were actually at home, which I don't think you're going to get blown out at home in the first round of the playoffs. Maybe one game. I could see like a game 3 getting blown out. That just seems so Timberwolves. But history has shown itself that the Minnesota Timberwolves do better on the road in the postseason, okay? It's just a fact. Think about last year. Think about the last couple years. The Minnesota Timberwolves have just, it seemed like, have won more games on the road in the postseason. And this could be something, to say that maybe home court advantage is not necessarily as important as everybody thinks in basketball. I do think football, it's one of the most important sports. I was talking to a couple people about this a couple days ago. Like, what sport, what playoff matters the most for home court advantage? And when I was thinking about it, I think basketball is probably the least important. I think basketball, hockey, least important. I think football is definitely the most important for home court or home field advantage in the playoffs because the crowd can really throw off the plays and the huddle and all that stuff. And I think similar to baseball, it can mess up some pitching and stuff like that. But I think basketball, it really doesn't matter. But also with these fans of Minnesota fans travel well too. So that's a good thing. They live all around. So that I'm not concerned about that. What I am concerned about is that the Denver Nuggets have somebody by the name of Nikola Jokic, just a little terrifying at times, averaging a triple-double, shooting 57% from the floor. You gotta show some respect from the 3-time MVP. He leads almost every single category here in the Denver Nuggets stats, averaging 28 points, 13 rebounds, 11 assists, almost 1.5 steals a game. Shockingly, is he averaging a block a game? No, he's averaging 0.8 blocks a game, only 4 turnovers a game, and just so much more, right? He's played 64 of the 80, probably 79 games have they played so far. So the injury, bug has definitely affected him. I don't think he's going to actually, so hold on. They have 2 games left. He's played 64. So he has to play one more game to be eligible for awards. So he'll probably do that for sure. But hey, Wemby, Cade, Ant, I think they're all gonna miss for awards. So the awards are gonna be shaping very interesting. Maybe I'll have to talk a little bit about that some other time. But then you also go down this lineup. You look at guys like Jamal Murray, who knows how to play in the playoffs. He's not even missed a single game. He's averaging 25 points a game in 75 games. That is a great statistic. 7 assists a game, 4 to 5 rebounds a game. Then you go down the lineup. You see Aaron Gordon, postseason success and experience. This team, almost altogether has won a championship together. There's a little pieces that are new, a little pieces that were on that team that aren't on this team anymore. But then you got Tim Hardaway Jr., Christian Brown, Jonas Valanciunas, Bruce Brown, again, Cameron Johnson, right? Like you just keep going down this lineup and you're seeing man, I mean 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players. 7 players averaging more than 12 points. Like, they have scoring, but they also have defense. Their defense is a really good defense as well. And this team is built for the playoffs. I would argue for sure that the Denver Nuggets might be the team that is best built for a playoff run. I think, OKC for sure has to be in conversation because they're so deep. In my opinion, this is a hot take. The San Antonio Spurs are still a little young. Do I think they could still make a Western Conference Finals appearance? Yes. Depending on who they're playing, could I see them advancing to the NBA Finals? Yes. but I think they're going to only get more dangerous. And I think they're actually the weakest they're going to be right now, just because they have so many young players that are still going to be making the playoffs for the first time. Wemby's not played in the playoffs yet. It's going to be interesting to see how he, steps into that moment. He's probably going to play out of his mind as normal. But Devin Vassell, Stephon Castle, and Dylan Harper and company, right? De'Aaron Fox hasn't even really played much playoff basketball. So they're a very inexperienced group. Obviously, OKC is very experienced. They just won a championship last season. And then this Denver Nuggets team, we know what they did a couple seasons ago. Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, Peyton Washington, Tim Hardaway Jr., Christian Brown, and company. Man, this is going to be definitely very interesting. But as a thought, as I'm thinking, as a Timberwolves fan, am I okay with this? Now that's definitely the big question. It's the bigger question because, to be honest, I would definitely wanted to play the Lakers, right? The Lakers have been struggling. They're without AR probably for at least the first round. We got no idea when Luka's going to return. And I think I even liked our chances against Luka. We already beat Luka, LeBron, and AR last season. I think we're a better team than last season, and I think Lakers are actually a little worse than last season, despite Luka being playing at the highest level he can possibly play at. But if we were to rank in, like, I had in my plan for like what podcast I do every day, I had this one scheduled for today, and it was like the final two Wolves games, because the Wolves have 2 games left. Is like, if not set already, rank the possible matchups. And I was doing that, when I put that on the schedule a couple weeks ago. And in general, it was these 3 teams, that we were probably going to play. I had Lakers 1, I had Rockets 2, I had Nuggets 3. The Nuggets definitely scare me the most just because of how experienced they are. The Houston Rockets also just kind of scare me because they have Kevin Durant, but I do think we probably would have beaten them in a 7-game series. And then this just shows, with or without Luka, I wanted to play I wanted to play Luka Doncic and the LA Lakers. And then when the Laker injuries happened with AR and Luka Doncic getting injured, I wanted to play them even more. And I think everybody wants to play them. And I think this is going to be very interesting because it's going to set up a very interesting playoff bracket. Because, like, right now, this is what the playoff bracket's looking like. And it's going to probably stay, I think, the same. I think the Rockets probably end up taking home court. And that's where we could take the next little segment here is 76, Rockets beat the 76ers, in my opinion. They probably beat the Timberwolves as well. They probably beat the Grizz, meaning that they get to 53 wins. And they currently don't have the tiebreakers. Technically, the Lakers have the tiebreaker. So if both teams win out, the Lakers will have home court, which could be very interesting. But if the Lakers even lose one, right? If they lose one, say they lose one, maybe to the Suns, maybe the Suns don't. And I mean, I'm not even saying, like, they could even lose tonight. It looks like Steph's not going to play. I did have that pulled up just in case I wanted to talk about it. The Warriors are most likely going to be running Spencer, Melton, Podziemski, Santos, Green as their starting 5. Curry's questionable. I guess Santos is still questionable. Bassey's questionable. And then no Porzingis and stuff. So I think the Lakers, LeBron is going to play. I think they probably win tonight. I think the Rockets win tonight as well. But I guess what happens if the Rockets lose and the Lakers win? Well, that's going to be an interesting storyline, and I think you're going to have a lot of Laker fans, a lot of Rocket fans going on in that. I'm not really one of those fans. I think I'm going to focus it back onto the Timberwolves, but there's so many different storylines we could get into. But yeah, this Laker Rockets series is going to be interesting. KD versus Luka. Sorry, not Luka. Not necessarily Luka. The major storyline: KD versus LeBron. That's box office. But then, I mean, this is going to be box office too. I mean, these series between the Nuggets and the Timberwolves have always been fun. They're going to be super fun. I can't wait. I can't wait to watch it. Even if, we're going to probably be the underdog. But hey, Anthony Edwards loves to play as the underdog. And I'll save my Wolves predictions. I'll save my playoff predictions till we have the full bracket figured out. I'll do that next Thursday. So yeah, hopefully you guys will be here next week to watch that. But now let's continue. Let's continue our talking. That's my little rant on the Nuggets. I don't know why it always is that white thing. I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on. But we got two more things little here on like what you need to know, because I this is just where it comes into play. This is where the thumbnail ultimately is going to make sense. On the thumbnail, if you remember what I had on there, I said the hardest road to the Larry O.B. ? Because if some way, somehow, the Minnesota Timberwolves beat the Denver Nuggets in round one, and I think I kept Anthony Edwards on the picture on all these. I was going to kind of adjust the pictures, and I'll explain a little bit later. I'm sorry, I should have done it, but I kind of ran out of time today. But anyway, if they were to beat them, beat the Nuggets in round one, who would they most likely have to play round two? Well, guess what? Boom. They'd have to play the Spurs in the second round. And then, if they happened to be able to beat the Spurs, and, if nothing crazy happens, who do they have to play in round three? The Oklahoma City Thunder. Nuggets, Spurs, Thunder. Tell me what the hardest, no. Let me refrain. Let me rephrase that. Hold up. How should I rephrase this? Here I go. I gotta be respectful of y'all. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for handling this. I don't know what's going on. Oh my gosh. But honestly, what makes this not the hardest? What makes this not the hardest playoff run or the hardest path to the Larry O.B.? Because then you're also going to have to play whoever comes out in the East. Most likely Celtics or Pistons, which, by the way, compared to this gauntlet of a schedule, they look easy, even though Detroit killed us both times we played them. I was at the Detroit game where Detroit came here. Sure, we didn't have Ant, but they didn't have Cade, and they still beat us. They beat the crap out of us. And I know Ant didn't play the game in Pittsburgh, in Detroit, but they still beat the crap out of us without Cade Cunningham. Now, Anthony Edwards, do I think he's better than Cade Cunningham? Yeah. Right now, yes. Do I think he's going to stay better, consistently better? Yes. But there's something special about the Detroit Pistons team, so you got to respect them. But anyway, compared to this gauntlet of the schedule, Nuggets, Spurs, Thunder, if they somehow, some way get out of that mess, or some way get lucky that the Rockets or the Trailblazers beat the Thunder, or the Suns beat the Spurs, how is this not the hardest path to the Larry O.B.? And I'm not making this up. Look at the playoff bracket. Whoever wins Nuggets, Timberwolves has to play the winner of the 7th seed and the Spurs. Most likely the Spurs. And then whoever wins that has to play the winner of Thunder versus either the Lakers or the Rockets. Because do we really think the second play-in winner is going to beat the Thunder in round one? I don't think so. Could I see an upset where, the Rockets or the Lakers possibly upset the Thunder? I could see that a little bit. But ultimately, I think the Thunder have the easiest path to get back to the Western Conference Finals. And sure, they're really good. They're a really good team. But they have also a really easy, like, Nuggets, Timberwolves, Spurs, and then probably the Suns all in one quadrant of a playoff bracket. That just isn't, that's preposterous. And then you got the Rockets, the injured Lakers, whoever the 8 seed is, and the Thunder. Come on. Come on, like that's money. I don't bet. I don't approve of betting, but I would bet a lot of money, that the Thunder get back to the Western Conference Final, because look at this. It's absolutely insane. But the Minnesota Timberwolves, yeah, they probably have the hardest. Path to the Larry O'Brien Trophy. That's what the NBA trophy is named. That's if you don't know what that is. But yeah, that's my little rant. And I think that's going to do it for today's episode of Inside the Wolves. As a recap, they'd have to play the Nuggets round 1, the Spurs round 2, the Thunder round 3. How far do they get? Boys? I think they're probably one of the most confusing teams. But guess what? I'm going to enjoy every single game. I'm probably going to stream almost every single game. So hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Turn the notification bell button on so you never ever miss an episode. And coming up the rest of the week here, try to get daily shorts put out here on the channel. Kingdom Competitors premieres every Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern, where we take a look at Christian athletes and what they believe and how we can apply it to our lives. I love that series so much. Got to keep God at the center of everything I do on this channel. Because yes, I have to, because he's the most important thing in my life, and that's why I close every episode on this podcast the way I do. Tons of playoff content coming your way these next couple of weeks with the NBA, NHL playoffs all started. It's going to be one heck of a couple months here, or one heck of a couple months if I don't say so myself. But for those who do not know, episodes weekly, every Tuesday, every Thursday, plus probably some bonus episodes, some bonus live streams, some bonus live play-by-play and reactions, and so much more. Check out my website if you want to see some of my articles. As I said in the beginning, I'm on my path to becoming a sports journalist, a sports beat writer, and maybe a podcast host if God allows. But appreciate everybody for watching. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Turn the notification bell button on so you never ever miss an episode. And I'll see you guys all in the next one. Again, let me know how far the Timberwolves get. And don't forget to keep God first, because he's the most important thing in your lives. And I'll see you guys all in the next one. Have a great day. Peace.